Welcome to another chapter of Sarah School, and this time I am dissecting with my, usual words, the chapter 2 of Eat Rich, Live Long by Ivor Cummins, Cummins, and Dr. Jeffrey Gerber. I keep saying Berger. Do you think it's because I'm a food addict? This is chapter 7, and what it's all about. And I'm just going to, a lot of things came to mind as I read this. 7 ways to twist the truth. And when I first announced that I was going to be doing this, I thought it was going to be easy peasy, bullet 1, bullet 2, bullet 3, and all of that kind of stuff. And I think the 7 ways is like, a million days to Sunday or ways to Sunday or something like that. So it really isn't 7 different ways because I tried to count. But in this, first he explains what fats, carbohydrates, and protein are. And a lot of us already know what that is. Do you know how many carbohydrates the body needs? Do you know? 0. That's why we have a lot of people that have been doing the keto food plan segue into the carnivore food plan, and they don't have any carbs at all, which is like amazing to me. One has invited me to do it, and it's like, nope, not yet. I like my big A salad. So what happened is that long time ago, Dr. Ancel Keys was doing some research, and it's like he kind of wanted it to turn out a certain way. And over the years, whenever I've seen statistical things, and this is interesting because Ivor's an engineer, and he knows statistics probably better than any doctor, PhD, anybody, except a mathematician along with him. And so you know that statistics can be skewed to make the point the author, the person, is trying to make. And so in this case, Ancel Keys picked out a number of countries that he wanted to put into his research. And the first batch that he put, there were 6 of them, and they were handpicked by him. Now he had something like, I believe he had something like 16 picked out. And so these first 7, when he did them, they didn't turn out the way that he wanted. So he didn't do all 16 countries. He just did his little cherry-picked ones. So what do you do when you've done 7 countries and you want it to work in your favor? Well, then you pick 6. And so then he picked 6, not the 16. And so he wanted to prove his point, and he did. And I guess that in here, Ivor and Dr. Gerber talk about 3 pillars of how to do the research and the comparison and the things like that. And so pillar 1 is an associational experiment. And so it's kind of funny because see this right here? Without knowing what it is, you can think, well, it's some sort of study comparing, maybe males to females in a certain diet or something like that. And so this was great because this is what I appreciate so much about Ivor, which is why I really liked his work when I would listen to his podcasts when he would be at certain places or just being interviewed, because he said it in a layman's way that I could understand. And I do better hearing things than I do reading, so I had to read this a couple of times. So it's not so much about the content of this chapter as it is in how he explains it. So if you are geeky, you will like it. And so Anyway, so when he did this chart to show us what an associational experiment is, those two things that mimicked each other in the blue and the red, this is kind of funny, but I got it, was looking at the divorce rate in Maine and the margarine consumed. And you would have thought that, like, if you were trying to prove that people that get divorced eat margarine, well, I guess you'd come up with that. But that's, of course, not the point. The point he's making is, what does margarine and the divorce rate in Maine have to do with each other? Nothing. And so that's called an associational and so, it just didn't work out. And so when a correlation, associational correlation, and so although that has its place in looking at data, it really isn't the go-all, end-all, be-all. And so so what happened is that he came up with his research. And even though, who knows where he gathered his data from. So he came up with it and he presented it to the World Health Association, and they eviscerated him. They hammered him. They pummeled him. They humiliated him. And so all he used in it, for example, to show you, was, this is in the 7-country one, so it was the first one. It only included men, no women, and only certain parts of the whole in the experiment. So he not only cherry-picked the countries for the first one, but he, all men, no women, just 12,700 men. And then at that, he just cherry-picked his data so it would all come out in his favor. And so, crazy, huh? So, he didn't go away, though, because people were listening to him and people were, losing trials and losing experiments that proved the exact opposite. So, in August 2017, so a mere 9-10 months ago, the results of the prospective urban rural epidemiology, PURE study, PURE for short, studies were published. And this was a 7-year study, and it tracked 135,000 people, men and women, across 18 countries. And it was massively more dependable with the data that was received. And what did it conclude? It came to the opposite conclusion of Ancel Keys' experiment. Okay, so kind of interesting. And so then, curiously enough, in 2015, so 2 years before the results of this were published, the American Heart Association quietly acknowledged in 2015 that that the high carbohydrate intake was tracked with increasing mortality, not high saturated fat. So it's just all very, very interesting. So sadly, Ancel Keys' work was still at the top, being pushed, being believed. It was a lie that just kept being built on by the American Medical Association, the American Heart Association, the American Diabetes Association, and our trusty-friendly Pyramid and MyPlate.gov and all of that sort of stuff, where the grains were pushed and the fruits were pushed. So it's just interesting. So anyway, so then Pillar 3, Pillar 2, he says, is going to be discussed in a different chapter. So Pillar 2 was ignoring experiment realities. And so it's just crazy. So people were doing tests all along that were just proving Ancel Keys, and the information was lost or not published, if like it was in a review in a publication. And so these were gold standard experiments that were done about what causes coronary heart disease, CHD. And so it just was really pretty stinky about what they were doing. And that's all we would know, right? And so finally things are beginning to turn around, and it's because of things like this that get geeky and scientific and are proving all the time, and which made American Heart Association quietly say it's not saturated fat, it's carbohydrates, and it's the highly processed, not just processed carbs, it's the highly processed, which is what we always think of, which is the white flour and the sugar and all of the junk food that we eat today. So anyway, that's that. So you would think, okay, so we're kind of getting to this place where they're going to give up that saturated fats cause the heart disease, right? So they're finally just going to kind of give away, accept that it is the carbs and everything else. I mean, you can only imagine what lobbyists and Congress and all these people are paid by the FDA and by food manufacturers and everything else just to keep it going. So then they decide that it's trans fats that cause the heart disease, and part of that is true. So they had to, it's not, so it's not the saturated fat, but trans fats, they pulled those off the market. You still might find some of them, but I don't think so. So what they had to do was come up with some fake fats, okay, that are manufactured, so people will continue to buy the junk food that has the fake fat in it. And if you only take one thing away from this whole 12 minutes of me trying to dissect geeky, which is, it's great geeky, but me translating, I don't know. So they needed to replace the saturated fats in the foods because they needed to get that palatable and, everything still needed to taste like the standard American carbohydrate diet, right? So as the trans fats were removed, natural fats weren't given a pardon to replace them, which is kind of funny because they used beef tallow in the French fries at McDonald's when French fries were like to die for before we knew all of this. And also in movie theaters, they used not cottonseed oil, they used coconut oil. And so here are these two saturated fats that end up being quite okay in our little keto high-fat world. And they stopped using them and started introducing these hydrogenated fats that are just so no. And so that's why when I talk about the fats that are okay to have, the coconut oil, the extra virgin olive oil, the avocado oil, coconut oil, did I say that? What you're not supposed to have is any vegetable oil. If it says Wesson at the top, don't buy it. Canola oil, Wesson oil, corn oil, vegetable oil, all of those sort of things. The crops are GMO crops, and then they genetically modify the oil, and it's just a nightmare in your body. Can you see this? It's a nightmare. I can't even look. It's a nightmare. I'm in the closet, Mommy. So what you have to look out for, if you see the word hydrogenated in some, even if they have a keto-fied food thing out there and it says hydrogenated, just put it right back. If you think something could be keto, and so you're kind of looking at it because you're in the health food section of the big retail store, if you see hydrogenated anywhere, they're hiding one of those oils like salad dressings, soybean oil, for example. You see soybean oil, put it back on the shelf. Maybe you should just get used to extra virgin olive oil, macadamia nut oil, avocado oil, walnut oil. Yes, those nut oils, not seed oils, okay, which is also safflower oil. And so look out for modified hydrogenated seed oils and look out for genetically modified seed oils. So I don't know what the difference is between the two of them, but it probably has to do with a molecule or two. But this is the scary one. And this is the one you're going to see more and more in our supermarkets, and it's just another poisonous fat that it's a frankenfat according to this book. I love it. And so this is what it is called. Okay, ready? Interesterified seed oils. Terrified. That's perfect. So I know I'm probably not pronouncing it right. Interesterified seed oils. It's created by chemically inserting saturated fatty acids from animals into vegetable oil. Okay, so they still got it going on. They're still poisoning you, but they've got some animal fatty acids from animal products. So it's not going to be healthy for you. And God knows what they're going to put in the front of the bottle that makes you think this is okay. It's going to say no trans fats or something like that. And so if you're half knowledgeable, you're going to say, oh, trans fats, oh, good, they don't have it. And you're going to buy the jug of it and bring it home. So, terrified seed oils. And that is what you need to look for on the back of your bottles of oil or packaged kind of looking like keto-friendly foods where it's not, or salad dressings, anything like that. And then if that wasn't enough, of course, now comes high fructose corn syrup. So they know that the fats, we might be getting more and more aware of fats, but we're kind of like still in the dark about high fructose corn oil that comes from corn syrup, excuse me, that comes from corn. And the corn is GMO, so you want to stay away from that. And that's really what's fattening up America as fast as it can. It's in everything. It's in sodas, it's in breads, it's in buns, it's in cereals, juices, everything. And so you need to stay away from that. It's also abbreviated HFCS. And so you will see that a lot too. So you're going to be looking for that terrified seed oil on the back of labels, as well as the high fructose corn syrup. Even if you're buying it for a loved one, you don't want them to be having it either. So this is just a new nasty that I haven't seen it, but I'm not looking for it. I'm not buying, bottled salad dressings, and I'm not really buying anything that's been ketofied or like they put that on the packaging. I'm kind of buying whole foods as untampered with as possible. And I hope it's the same for you too. But the lie started with Ancel Keys with his phony charts and graphs, with first the 7 nations that got him at the World Health Organization. So then he made it 6, and that got through. But all of his words, all of his lies kept getting supported by other places where money was funding into the other places to support him. He was even on the cover of Time. So it not only was a lie, but it was a big, big lie. And if you want more information about that, Nina Teicholz wrote The Big Fat Surprise, and she has a whole bunch of information all about this Ancel Keys and how it kept us crazy for 50, now we must be getting close to 60 years worth. So that's just a little bit about how somebody can take something wrong. It's that funny saying that if 1,000 people say a lie is true, it still doesn't make it true. And that's how this was too. And so thank you, Ivor, for making this this difficult chapter just a little bit easier to understand. I have my takeaways. If you've got this book at home, you're going to have your takeaways too. But what I like is that with the engineering background that he has, it's no stone is going to be left unturned. And he puts it in a layperson's way where for me to have 2 reads, and if I saw a podcast all about that, I would understand it a whole lot better. So that's the good news there. And I hope if you have your book, you're enjoying it. I began with the recipes, and now I'm moving into the words the word part of this 400 page book. And today I did go back to the, if you ever get really, really bored, see who he gives credit to, and then Google or YouTube Google them and see if they have a podcast, if they have a YouTube channel. Because you never can get tired of learning. And he does a who he thanks, and it's just loaded with people. So if you were to get bored with your life, then you could start looking up all the people that he acknowledges in this book. It just, there's so much value in this. And then the index, and then there's sample meal plans. It doesn't end. This is your keto Bible. Although there have been other keto Bibles too, but this one just has a special place for me because I'm getting it. And when you're ready for more is there for you in that book. So thank you so much for watching. Chapter 2, 7 Ways to Twist the Truth. Thanks, Ancel. I'll see you the next time. This has been Sarah, Pearls of Wisdom and Food. Bye-bye for now.